Well, greetings, Sigma Race fans. This is our regular season finale for the 2025 Bridge to Cup Championship. And we've already got a rundown on who's pretty much locked in to the finale. Well, the bracket championship as it'll be. And today, we got one more race to figure out who else may be joining the 16-car field for that championship bracket. On the front row, you've got Finlay Herwig. Surprisingly, one of the strongest races he probably had marked on his calendar since joining the Bridge to Cup program late in the season. The ultimatum was if he could get into the top 15 in points and get a win, he could be eligible for the championship battle. And so a Bridge to Cup championship may be on the line here tonight if he gets the win around the road course, the street circuit of New York. Alongside him is Alan Malcolm. Then you've got Carson Bowers and Alex Crowther, two of the winningest drivers here in 2025. Rodriguez and Jimmy Logano, both of them locked in as well. Followed by Tim Cording and Eli the Wolf on the outside looking in. Still has a chance with the points as it sits at the moment, but not safe by any means, especially if we get a new first-time winner. Then you've got Jason So and Alex Sanvital, Rich Roy and Matthew Hubert, Cannon Gage and Andrew Moger, Jack Davis and Krista Cower, Trevor Vaden and Cooper Dwight, Jonah Burge and Wyatt Wilkinson, Kyler Sestre and Ryan Little. Pretty much everyone back here needing a win to get in. Zach Magoon and Gannon Bird, Kat Durham and Alan Chavot. Chavot is locked in, but could fall out of the top 25 in points. Then you've got Skylar Taylor, Adam Starr, Jamie Horseman, Anheuser Walkner, Roach, Spinham Walker, and Noah Hobson rounding out the field. Yellow flag's off. Perfect. I did turn them off. So the moment of truth is now, folks. 35 Bridge to Cup drivers going to try to come home with one last shot to get into the playoffs here today. New track, a lot of unknown. With a lot of unknown, we don't know how this race is going to play out. But we do know that the Bridge Cup Series does have some road course ringers. And with Finlay Herwig in the mix, you've got Alex Crowther as well. And Luis Rodriguez, I would also give a nod as getting around a road course pretty well. Off to the early lead, it is Alan Malcolm, as they go roaring down the hill here. The sights and the scenes around here, it's going to be something unlike anything we've seen in Sigma racing yet. Down the streets in New York. Alan Malcolm seems like he's probably going to be able to lead the first lap here. Now, I am fully anticipating, since I've been having problems with this mod, do not be surprised here today if the game crashes. If it does crash, we've got all day to make this race happen. So, cross your fingers. Maybe just don't double cross, because that's usually bad luck. But we're going to try for it and see how things go. And hopefully, just hopefully, we have no hiccups here today. New second place driver, Alex Crowther, settles in to second. Carson Bowers moving up to third as Finlay with the pole position. It seems like maybe is playing the long strategy here. Saving his tires, maybe saving some gas. Being smart and conservative while the other drivers are trying to run away with it early here. Full course cautions on Sigma road courses are very rare and hard to find. We will be keeping an eye on the rest of the field to make sure that there's no big wreck that would merit a full course caution. We've got 33 cars in the field, which some of you might notice we're missing a driver, one of our title contenders in Willow Blake, who had stepped away from the series abruptly and kind of put things in a bit of a tailspin for a while there, but the show goes on. We have a championship still up for grabs that we got to figure out who's gonna come home with that championship. And so immediately that jumped up a few spots that are in the mix now on points, because there's one less driver with wins eligible now. That O2 car has become removed from the situation, and Ryan Little, 14th in points right now, is technically eligible as long as we don't have a new winner here today and he can stay in 14th in the points. Now the drivers with wins that have to stay in the top 25 in points include the 07 of Jonah Burridge, the 97 of Alan Chavot, and the 74 of Andrew Moger. As it seems, Andrew Moger having maybe a decent day here so far. Yeah, there he is in 7th. So Moger, as long as he can stay within the top 25 in points with a run like this right now, he should be pretty good. So each of these last several races at the end of the regular season here help set up the seeding for the bracket championship. It hasn't really been plotted out completely. We'll only know once the top 16 are locked in. And so once the top 16 are locked in, we're going to go back and look at these last 5 races. And based on how they finished in each of those races, we'll figure out who's seeded number 1 through 16 for each of the following 5 races in the bracket championship. So I'll be able to put together a lot of details after this race concludes, because then we'll know for sure who the number 16 driver is. If it's someone that wins tonight to lock their way in, they're actually going to be considered the number 1 seed at the penultimate race when we go to Lakewood on the dirt. And whichever driver 16th in points finishes the furthest back here tonight will obviously be seeded number 16 for that penultimate race. Our drivers are settling into a nice long green flag run here today at the New York Street Circuit. Street Fighter 250 on deck here, folks. If you're tuned in and watching, might just go grab something to drink, get a bite to eat. We're going to be in for a decent length race here today. 250 miles around this 2 mile and change length street circuit. It's a very unique setup. It's really cool to be running through the streets of New York here, seeing the scenic view that only you can see with race cars on the street. Since taking the lead out of the gate, Alan Malcolm has been hard to catch up with here. He's set the fastest lap so far, and he's continuing to stretch it out on the rest of the field. I know our ticker does not do a very good job on road courses. It thinks that the fastest lap was a 32-second, 32.847. That is not accurate, as they're turning about 1 minute laps around here. 1 minute, 26 seconds, 625. 126.6 is the fastest lap by Alan Malcolm. A 126.7 is second and third with Crowther and Bowers. And fourth fastest is the 770 from Finley Herwig. So it is going to come down to a strategy game here, and who has the long strategy haul is definitely going to be the ones to look out for. So Carson Bowers has already locked up your regular season championship. He has a grand total of a 123-point lead over Alex Crowther, who's right there in front of him. And so this, it's all, the regular season championship doesn't mean a whole lot anymore, as it's not going to be much of a boost in his playoff. But still, it's an honor, to come out on top during the regular season with the championship. Honestly, I think the best way to treat this is, we'll say he's locked in. The other 15 drivers need to have a winning record during the final 5 races in the playoffs. Obviously, he's still going to have a winning record, but he'll have a berth in the finale. Wouldn't be right to have your regular season champion not even eligible to fight in the finale. So we'll make that call right now. Sigma officials have decided that Carson Bowers is locked into the finale, no matter how many drivers are eligible for it, based on our head-to-head bracket. Alan Malcolm is checking away out front here. No one seems to be having any of the same speed that he's got. And perhaps, maybe it's a strategy game, that they're saving their stuff, waiting for the race to come to them, rather than push too hard and use up all their stuff. All 33 cars still running here. No one is retired. No mechanical faults. And Finley sitting in 4th would be your first driver without a win that could win their way in here today. We can look even a little further back here. Alex Sanvital with strategy luck could really mix things up here today. Moger doing what he must to stay in the top 25 in points, as is Eli the Wolf, who's currently in on points, short of a brand new winner and other shenanigans. I still don't see the number 8 falling out completely, especially with a top 10 run. And then Krista Cower, who has been in this situation before where she needs a little bit of luck to go her way. And last year it didn't quite go that way, as she was inconsistent on a checkers or wreckers basis, and then still managed to make to the finale, but didn't have the best car when the last day came around. She's currently pretty much locked in, as long as she doesn't have a bad finish here. Top 10, she should be locked in. We'll be looking at the 98 in the mix for that championship for the August Agro Bracket Challenge. As I previously mentioned, we really don't have any data on this track, so we don't know when the first round of pit stops are going to happen. Kind of just along for the ride here right now. We'll see how long it takes them to make it to that first round of pit stops. Lap times have definitely fallen off here as tires are wearing out. Alan Malcolm had a fastest lap of 126.6 and has since dropped to a 128.1. Well, we're down to 50 laps left to go here today. 250 miles. It's going to go by pretty quickly at the rate we're going. So far, having led every lap so far, it's the 19 of Alan Malcolm, looking to put his win tally at 2 wins on the season. Carson Bowers has 6, Alex Crowther with 4. Willow Blake had 3, unfortunately stepped away from the server. And Alan Malcolm looking for the big number 2. Tim Cording has 2. Jimmy Logano with 1, Luis Rodriguez with 2, Rich Roy with 1, and then 3 other drivers that are still top 25 in the points for now. Alan Chavot, Andrew Moger, and Jonah Burridge with 1 win apiece. Jonah's going to have to stay ahead of Spinham Walker by about 10 spots. So if we look through the field, where is Jonah Burridge? And where is Spinham Walker? So in 21st, about 4 spots ahead. That could still be enough for Spinham Walker to get by Jonah Burridge. That'd keep Jonah Burridge in 25th, though. And then Wyatt Wilkinson would have to get about as many spots ahead of him as well. And he's running in 14th, so Wyatt Wilkinson could definitely play spoiler here today and knock out one of the contenders trying to stay in the top 25 in points. Your 3 drivers there are all kind of right on the cusp. I think Chavot should be safe and Moger should be safe based on how they're running. But Jonah Burridge is not very comfy with his points buffer back to 26th. Wilkinson and Spinham Walker make up 20 points. Jonah Burridge could lose 20 points to both of them based on how the race unfolds here today. Usually max points is a 55-point day. Last place is worth 1 point, so we'll see. Jimmy Logano's definitely had a very quiet season. Would have expected to see him win a couple more. And then even you got Cooper Dwight, who won a few races last year, and he's still winless here in 2025. So not quite the expected sophomore season for 2 of our top Bridge to Cup talents from last year. I mean, Jimmy Logano still had a pretty stellar season. Don't get me wrong, with the first win at the first race of the season. He's also had 6 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and only 3 DNFs. So not the worst of seasons, just it's been kind of a head scratcher where the win column's only at 1. Cooper Dwight with 0 wins, 7 top 5s, and 11 top 10s. I mean, they're both pretty good seasons. It's just minus the wins, you know. Dang, the lap times are dropping even further. They're about 2 seconds off the fastest lap that they were able to turn earlier in the race here today. So tires are going to be supreme. And at this point, if we can stretch it to about lap 22, that would put this at a 3-stop race. No, actually, it'd only be a 2-stop race at 22. 21 would be pushing it for a 2-stop race. So this week pretty much is a test trial for the rest of the weeks to come, as Bridge to Cup is just opening up this week of racing on the streets in New York. The next race in the ARCA series, which will be coming up Thursday, will also be here at the New York Street Circuit. The Cup Series, we do have another race between here and there. We do have the Richmond night race on June 26th, then the New York GP on July 3rd, and the USA Trucks, which will be focused in here on the New York Street Circuit very soon on Tuesday. Before the trucks tangle here, though, we have a doubleheader with the Trucks West that we need to get lined out and figured out, as there were some scheduling mishaps that put us at 16 East Division races and only 14 West Division races. So to make up for that mistake, Sigma USA Trucks is actually going to go to the new track built for Sigma, the Moses Lake Motorplex, the first of our own homemade tracks made by myself personally. And it's a fictional track. It's not a real-life track, but it's a fictional track based in my hometown. And so the Moses Lake Motorplex is going to be hosting a points-paying race before the Cup Series gets to. The USA Trucks will see it. And then we're also going to go to Castle Gorge Speedway, which is a fictional track based in Seattle, Washington. So we've got a Washington doubleheader on tap for the USA Trucks West. Still no takers down pit road as we're approaching that 22 lap mark that I was talking about. It looks like Finley starting to catch up to the back bumper of Bowers there. They're about 3 seconds off the pace now. It is ugly once they get into the long run here. The track is very, very hard, like a cheese grater on these tires. And so I imagine the person that's able to do the undercut here today may be reaping the benefits of an undercut strategy. Because you can go in, get fresher tires, and run a quicker lap before everyone else. Even if you just come in 1 lap earlier. Wow, what was I talking about? Carson Bowers comes in earlier than everyone else, and that may be a game-winning move right there. If you come in, get fresh tires before anyone else, this is putting him right on the edge of not being able to make it to the finish if 21 laps is all he can go. Because then he'll have to pit at lap 42. Which would mean his last stint would be 22 laps. So honestly, not bad. He would just have to push it 1 lap longer. But you'll see the advantage here when he leaves pit road. Fresh tires. Watch him put lap times down where the leaders are out there turning 129s. 129.57 from Alan Malcolm. One lap alone, he could make up about 3 seconds on Alan Malcolm. And prior to that pit stop, the deficit was just about, roughly about 5.5 seconds. So the longer Malcolm stays out, the worse it's going to be for that advantage that he had on the 12 of Bowers. Man, he's staying out another lap, so he must be confident in his strategy to stay out longer here. Alan Malcolm has dropped down to nearly a 1 minute and 30-second lap on these old tires. This last lap that he just turned was a 1:30.0. So this is kind of the danger zone for Malcolm, as he's going to be losing about 4 seconds a lap right now on Bowers, who just pitted. If we look at the lap time when Bowers comes around, he is going to be dealing with lap traffic here, so this could put an unwanted hindrance in his way. And once you get stuck with lap traffic, that's always going to spell trouble. But if the 130 match it up here to a 127, he just gained 3 seconds on the leader that time by. And since track position is so huge, once he gets the advantage and has the lead after pit stops happen, he might be hard to get back around. Alan Malcolm still, man, I don't know if you can make it to lap 32. That would be ballsy. If you could stretch it halfway through the race, then pit. Clearly, Bowers is on the 2-stop strategy, but I don't know what Malcolm's doing here. Staying out another lap, and the lap time is going to drop probably to about 1:30.2 would be my guess. Yep. Lap time is in on scoring, and it's a 1:30.242. Finley staying out. His lap time a 1:30.1. We did have another taker down pit road, the 84 of Crowther. But even with our takers down pit road, your leaders are digging themselves a deep hole here, staying out as long as they are. Carson Bowers, we'll see what his lap time is this time. Comes across the line. Timing and scoring shows that he just turned a 129.1. So he's stuck behind some lap traffic here, and that's definitely slowing up his rate. He beats the 84 off pit road, so that's huge, because now the 84 is on a heat lap to try and get heat in those tires. And the 12 on full pace here, he's going to have the advantage on the 84. And a little bit of clear track will help him put together another clean lap, it seems. We're still waiting on our leaders. when they decide to pit here, this could definitely decide a lot of the trajectory of the race here today. Malcolm stays out another lap. So they're definitely flirting with the idea of making this a one-stop race. If they can make it another 8 laps, man, that would be crazy. Wow. Let's see what NR2003 says is the lap range. 45 laps. So it's not without the realm of possibility that they could make this happen. For Finley, I don't think it's a winning strategy, though, because he's already proved that he's not up to pace with Alan Malcolm on the same strategy, as they sit right now 5.5 seconds apart. Finley's going to need a little bit of bad luck from the 19 if he wants to win this race. But it's definitely making for an interesting strategy call here all across the field. Heck, if 45 laps is the distance that they can go, who's saying that Carson Bowers doesn't have to come in again? He might be trying to run the rest of this race without a pit stop. So, yeah, then again, our strategies continue to get more out of whack here. In a way, the 68 and the 19, they're going to have fresh tires with less laps to go. The other drivers are going to be wearing out their stuff right now, running through the lap traffic. Bowers, he's getting into the 127, but he hasn't touched the 126 where his fastest lap lies. He's kind of ping-ponging between 127 and 129, working through all this traffic, so. But the advantage is already there. Bowers is going to have almost probably a 12 to 15 second advantage over the 19 of Alan Malcolm once he decides to pit, just because he's been out here on fresher tires knocking out the laps. Man, this makes me excited for the rest of Sigma Racing to tackle this track. We've got, you know, it's a true road course race with strategies and head games that only you can get when you put 30 plus drivers on a road course together. Most of the oval tracks is game of checkers. Tonight, or everywhere else we run these races, this is a chess match. Impressively, Finley Herwig's times are not far off from our leader. They're continuing to put together consistent laps. This lap for Finley was a 131.4, while Malcolm's was a 131.5. So Malcolm losing a little bit of ground here as Finley continues to close it up just a little bit. Well, we're closing in on halfway here in the Street Fighter 250. Finley Herwig and Alan Malcolm stretching it as far as they can on the first stint here today. They have still not pitted. We did have some drivers dip early to get the undercut strategy rolling, and one of which is your points leader, Carson Bowers, who thought it'd be smart to pit early and get out there with fresh tires again. Well, by the time that his advantage is going to start to wear off, that's when your leaders are going to come down and get fresh tires and blow by him again. So I'm feeling like it could be a move. It could backfire here too. Long enough race that Bowers may or may not have enough in the tank when it matters the most. Having to race through the lap traffic here is actually a lot tougher on the 12 team than what the leaders out front are doing, just chilling in the lead without any lap traffic. Bowers is now 23.7 seconds back of our leaders, and you're going to lose probably about 40 seconds on a pit stop here. And so he would get the lead, but he'll be on old tires trying to defend, while the new tires of our current leaders would kick in. So I'm kind of leaning towards this long strategy on Alan Malcolm, Finley Herwig, and even Luis Rodriguez, who are stretching it unfathomably long. It's like you would have come in for tires by now. Those cars cannot be handling very comfortably. Alan Malcolm dips on lap 31, so right shy of halfway. 31. Finley credited with a lead lap here today. He's got some extra strategy in the tank. He's going to make it to halfway and hopefully have fresher tires than everyone on racetrack. And this may or may not be the move to make here for Finley. I'm thinking the undercut would have came in handy to get around the 19 of Malcolm, but we'll see. Honestly, I am no wizard at this, but strategy often points towards getting out there sooner with the fresher tires. But if all it takes is an extra lap or two to build that advantage with the fresh tires, we'll see. What happened? Where is the 19? Okay, he's back on track. He didn't take long on pit road at all. Was it just a quick gas and go? No, he took tires. Okay. Just the first pit stall. That's why it was in and out so quick. He should have lost a lot more time than that. I'm surprised. And so, yeah, he's back to 20th. And he's going to have to get through a bunch of cars to get back up to Bowers, who's now all the way up in the top 10. Wow, Finley. Did he make his pit stop finally? Yes, he did. Quick pit stop for Finley as well. It looks like he rejoins the racetrack. Ahead. Nope, behind. Okay, behind Alan Malcolm. Now it's really going to be hard to tell who's got what strategies right now. Looks like Alex Crowther getting in a little bit earlier than everyone gets the lead here, even from Carson Bowers. And honestly, there shouldn't have to be any more pit stops for anyone on track. Unless you're Tim Cording, who I think has managed to stay out this whole time. Or did he pit early? Dang. Okay. So Tim Cording playing the extra long ball. The super long ball. I don't know the angle there. You're going to lose so much time with the leaders, and a short period at the end of the race is not going to be enough to get back up to the front. I mean, we'll see. Strategies do, you know, do funky things once in a while. Wow, look at that. Finley already back up to 19th as he's passing him left and right. All at the same time, Alan Malcolm has worked his way through the traffic as well. We'll see exactly where everyone shakes out when they come across the start-finish line this next time. Tim Cording hadn't enough to make it to the rest. Cooper Dwight having to come down. So Gannon Bird, I think, is going to be your new third. Nope, 7th. First is Alex Crowther. Second, Carson Bowers. Third, Krista Cower. Fourth, Matthew Hubert. Fifth, Alan Malcolm. And Gannon Bird likely to pit here soon. Jack Davis in 8th. Kyler Sestre 9th. And Finley Herwig 10th. But this is where the fall off is going to be huge with these leaders. We already saw how hard the lap times got hit the later you make it. The 12 of Carson Bowers might have a 10-second advantage on Alan Malcolm right now. But if he starts falling about a second slower each lap, that 10-second deficit could shrink within the final 10 laps of the race. Yeah, so by the end of it here today, I think the big battle, you're going to have to be looking at who's currently sitting first, second, fifth, and ninth in the running order right now. Those should be your drivers that'll rise to the top by the end of it. With the amount of laps that we have left, 29 to go. I'm impressed. Finley cut it right down the middle, ran it as long as he could, and now we're going to start seeing our leaders drop like rocks. Bowers just turned a 128.1, while the newcomers that just had the fresh tires put on are going to be turning 126s and 127s, as long as they don't have lap traffic to fight with, like Alan Malcolm here and Matthew Hubert. Malcolm, if he can get by the 81 here ASAP, he's going to be able to set down some quick laps and really start closing in on the lead here. Yeah, so today I'm hoping to do a Sigma Marathon, and I'll do it with individual streams rather than holding one big consecutive stream here today. Trying to get caught up because I'm going to be going to a concert next weekend and getting all the races wrapped up for the end of June here so that we can come back and finish the July part-time July schedule. We only have about 2 races in July for the Cup Series. Everything else we're going to be trying to get squared away here either today or within the next couple days. USA Trucks, we've got a double header on tap from the West Coast. Gonna give us our first ever points paying race at Moses Lake Motorplex, the home of Sigma Racing. And Castle Gorge, which is also a fictional track based in Seattle. So giving us that Washington home base feel here with 2 tracks, very unique tracks in their very own design. And with the USA Trucks after that, we do have 2 more races before the July break. New York Street Circuit, just like this here, and Las Vegas for the West Coast. 1 final race in before July's break. Sigma ARCA, we're going to do New York Street Circuit and Las Vegas as well. Oh wait, I'm not looking at ARCA, that's Bridge to Cup. We're in the last race here for Bridge to Cup as I was able to power through the rest of those. ARCA, the New York Street Circuit, and Las Vegas, like I mentioned. So yeah, we were right. And I'll probably try to stick pretty close to the scheduled allotment for those races. But then we've got Richmond, New York, Las Vegas, and Kentucky. The final races in our Cup stint before we go on the July break. This race has been going by swimmingly. No cautions, no wrecks, no retirements. Everyone's still out there running, all 33 cars, putting on a stellar show here today around the streets of New York. Crowther has been quietly dominant this year, and it seems like he's got a knack for these road courses. 4 wins on the season so far, and of those 4 wins, he won at Lakeside Raceway Park road course, Nashville Superspeedway, a short oval, or medium oval, I guess, and Pocono Raceway, as well as Dover. But the rest of the road course races, he'd had a 2nd at Sonoma, an 11th at the Cleveland Airport, a 5th at Papyrus Motorsports Park, an 8th at Watkins Glen, and a 21st at the Daytona Rallycross, which isn't truly a road course, but it is roads, road course left and right with a little bit of dirt mixed in there. Well, the gap is starting to shrink between Carson Bowers and Alan Malcolm, as it's only about 6 seconds separating the two now. Well, I did not see this coming. Our leaders are having to pit again. They weren't even able to make it much further than the first stint. They made it 22 and they couldn't even make it to 44. So your leaders having to pit again, not getting about the same gas mileage as some of the other folks out there, evidently. As now Alan Malcolm's going to probably reclaim the lead here. Wow. That's unfortunate. Now Finley getting back up to where would be second, and I think it's going to come down to the final 20 laps here, and if Finley's got enough of an advantage to actually close the some 10-second deficit for him to Malcolm. Krista Cower staying out right now though, and we'll see how long she stays out with the lead. I don't often leave the Delta tracker up there for everyone to see, but this is a different scenario here today, and I think maybe, just maybe, Finley Herwig's going to have enough extra rubber to actually close the gap here. As you can see, he's down to 8 seconds now. He just gained another 0.16 of a second. Well, if you start factoring in wear and how heavy the wear is, eventually that 0.16 will turn into a 0.32, turn into a 0.5, turn into nearly a full second a lap. Alan Malcolm with a 128.1 and Finley with a 127.9. Finley's going to have to be running the laps of his life here. And if Alan Malcolm can make it without any more pit stops or any troubles here, Finley could be in the catbird seat. There we go. The laps are winding down. The lead starting to shrink. Alan Malcolm down to a 7.35 second advantage over Finley Herwig. His lap times are dropping off the cliff. Finley was half a second faster that last lap. Alan Malcolm hitting the slow button here a little too long in the run. 17 to go. If we keep cutting off half a second, in 14 laps, Finley Herwig is going to be knocking right there on the door. This is truly getting exciting. If you haven't tuned in yet, folks, hopefully you'll tune in for the last 20 laps, because this is about to turn into a strategy game. And I feel like we could be seeing the birth of a new playoff contender, depending on how this race pans out. Either Alan Malcolm or Finley Herwig, both drivers, have had a stellar season. And Finley only joined the series full-time after departure from James Gunner. He was able to inherit that seat, and Sigma officials gave the ultimatum that he's got to win, and he's got to be top 15 in the points, not top 25 like the rest of the drivers. So top 15 in a win. He's currently top 15 in the points. All he's got to do is get that win. He is 15th of 15. And yeah, so the win would pretty much jump him up to about 12th in the points. In his very limited schedule, he's only run 10 races of the 24. So a very Kyle Busch-esque clause, as Kyle Busch had missed roughly more than half the season back in 2015 to win that championship after he broke his leg. But sometimes those are what stories are made of. You got to have those oddball quirks that no one saw coming. And Sigma officials gave him the verdict, the okay. It's like you can play for the championship. Pretty much half your other points were accrued by the 32 team that was driverless. And so it's a combination of what James Gunner was able to do. Okay, so the 19 has to pit here with 16 laps to go. This is not what I ended up having on the bingo board, but Finley still staying out here. We'll see how this pans out. Now I'm not sure what to think. Finley back the lead again. We know that he was able to go 32 laps without pitting. And now, let's just hope that his strategy is sound and designed to get the win here today. Be down to 14 laps left to go this next time by. And then Finley's pitting. So we have hit the twilight zone of effects. I don't know how this came to be. But there you have it, folks. 14 laps to go. Everyone's had to make their second pit stop, turn this into a 2 pit stop race. And now your new leader looks like it's going to be the 40 of Alex Sanvital. Based on trajectory of their laps, they're probably going to pit again around lap 60. Yeah, Alex Sanvital is going to pit next lap because that's about where Finley Herwig made his pit stop. So 21:41. Seems like the first, they're not able to fill them up as good as they were from the start. So there must be a fueling limitation on pit road for whatever reason, that they're not getting all the fuel in the system. And so who's knowing if this is actually going to work out in the 84's favor or not now. Looks like just about everyone else coming in pitting again. Whole slew of them for their what should be last pit stop. Now with clear track in front of him, Finley's going to have room to roam. This was his slow lap on the exit of pit road. And there's about 4 cars separating him to what would be the potential leader once things shuffle back around again. Man, my head hurts. I thought I had seen the strategy call working in the favor of Finley Herwig here. Wow, somehow Jimmy Logano's made it up to second, but he's pitting. Where the heck did this extra speed come from? Crowther out there turning 127.6s. Carson Bowers 128.7. Krista Kauer 127.6. Alan Malcolm 128.9. Finley turning 127, so I'm still liking the speed I'm seeing out of Finley, especially when the gap between him and the 19 still continues to close. It's back to about the same deficit as it was, 6 seconds back and closing. I'm fully anticipating to see the rest of your leaders pit on lap 61. Or run out of fuel or something. It'll be weird. But I don't think Alex Crowther is going to win this race. Nor do I think Carson Bowers is going to win. Well, our leaders alone are actually trying to close that gap with 10 laps to go. So even if Crowther, Bowers, and the like don't make one final pit stop here, Alan Malcolm is picking them off slowly, about almost a 1 second a lap gain. And even Finley Herwig dealing with a little bit of lap traffic right now, it seems. He just turned the fastest lap he's turned in the race, a 126.466, second fastest lap in the race coming from Finley Herwig. You don't usually see a fast lap turned with 10 laps to go, but Finley knocked one out of the park there, folks. But on the ladder, Alan Malcolm also turned a 126.7. So even with the fast lap time, Finley may be a little bit in the toe of the 81, getting some drafting air. I don't know how that works on a road course, but a 126.4. We'll see if he can back that up with another fast lap this time around. Doesn't look like he's being held up too significantly by the 81. If he's got some room to move around, he can get around the 81 down on front stretches. 126.8. He's going to have to get around this 81 as quickly as possible if he wants to continue to close that gap, which is now about 4.5 seconds to the 19 of Malcolm. Here's Finley with a good run. He's going to try to push, and the 81 blocks the line. That was kind of a dirty move on the 81 there. This race is far from over, folks. Stick around, stay tuned. Alan Malcolm's in the 128.1 bracket. Finley's in the 126s, and he desperately needs to get around this 81. It is holding him up something fierce. Here he is trying to go down the front stretch. He turned to 128.4, so lap traffic is going to put a stink on the battle here for the win. 81 not really in the mix here as far as the win goes. And Finley just trying to get around him. It's got to be frustrating. I bet Finley is fuming in the car right there, asking his spotter or whatever, his crew chief, and where is it that the 81 is trying to block the line so much here. 127 from Alan Malcolm. Crowther's down into the 128s. So Malcolm not closing the gap enough to catch your leader at this rate. Finley's going to need a bit of a lucky break here, dealing with the slower traffic in front of him. He's going wide. He's making moves. He's trying to figure out where he can go to get around the 81. Still about and now it's up to 6 seconds, the deficit for Alan Malcolm. So Finley's starting to lose all the momentum he had. Fast lap being hindered by a slower number 81 car that will not get out of the way. Man, this has got to be frustrating. What we were looking at could have been a great storyline. Here we go, Finley driving it in. He's going to push the 81 out of the racing line. Time to make a move now or forever lose out on a chance at fighting for a championship. Finley makes the move, seals the deal, and with some clear track ahead of him, he's only going to have to hope that the rest of the lap traffic keeps his competition at bay here. Fallon Malcolm keeps rolling 128s. Finley could start getting back into the 127, 126 bracket, and he could catch right back up. We know that he's got fresher tires and maybe saved a little bit of the tires there, getting behind the 81, holding him up there. So we'll see how fresh this 68 is with just 6 laps to go. A lot of racing in 6 laps can happen here. Long track, long lap times. Alex Crowther, your leader, has a 10-second lead over Carson Bowers and 11-second lead over Alan Malcolm. Still no retirements, no cautions, no craziness here. It's just been a great race. Good racing action. Look at that. Finley, like a shark in the background, can taste the blood in the water. He's starting to close that gap. He's going to have to get around at least 4 more cars before the end of the race here. And I'm thinking pit stops are going to factor in for a few of these leaders. Wow, Finley just turned a 127.2. He just gained a full second on, well, gained a full 2 seconds on Alan Malcolm and roughly a whole second on your leader. Catching him's one thing, passing him a different dilemma. And Finley shows that he found a spot on the racetrack where he can get the pass done. We'll see if he's able to do that again for the last 4 cars that stand between him and victory. If he's really got that much fresher tires than them, it may not be much of a hassle at all. And we'll see if the 84 will make it to the finish or if they'll have to pit again, run out of gas, whatever it might be. This battle getting good. Look at that. He's trying to get around the 98, sticking his nose on the inside. Has the long front stretch at the front of the field to make the move. Closes the door right in front of him, but it's not over. He's going to give her a bump and run. Oh, around the outside. Here comes Finley with a hard charge. Those fresh tires are kicking in. Alan Malcolm, sweating bullets, sees that he needs to make a move or be at risk of losing this race. He gets around the 12 of Carson Bowers, and now Finley needs to get around the 12 as well. 4 laps to go. This could be a battle for the win if the 84 does have to pit one final time. Finley used up his stuff this lap, getting around the 98 there. But it looks like he's going to have another opportunity coming around the second half of the racetrack to try and catch the 12 here. He's sneaking on the inside, sneaking on the high side. I called 61 to 62 when the 84 would have to pit again. He's staying out. Lap 61. He's down to a 129.4 though is his lap time. Alan Malcolm turned to 127. He kicked it into overdrive here, getting around lap traffic that had been holding him up. Now Finley dealing with the 12 here. He's going to have to find an opening and execute. I'm surprised none of these drivers are having to pit. It seemed like everyone was having to pit an extra lap or two. 3 seconds separates Finley from the 19, and this is going to get harder the longer he's stuck behind the 12. At this rate, Alan Malcolm might be the one eligible to catch the leader who's turning slow laps here. Finley must get around this 12 before the end of this lap if he wants to even have a fighting chance to catch the leader. He needs to get around the 12. He's going to do the move that we saw him make earlier on the 81, pushing him out of the line. Man, we're just going to come short on laps here today, folks. It's going to be tough now for Finley. I mean, chances are in another 2 or 3 laps he could be within reach of our leader. But he's going to have to get around the 19 still. And it looks like it's usually about a 2-lap setup to get around someone once you've caught him. And Alan Malcolm's not even catching the 84, so desperately it's going to come down to if the 84 has to pit on the final lap or run out of gas, which could very well still happen. Finley's scrapped back for a 3rd place after all the pit stops here today. We'll keep the delta up there for everyone to see. 4 seconds separates Alan Malcolm to Finley Herwig. Mechanical failures have not struck yet today, and with a lengthy race like this, there's still that factor that could kick in. We could see a flat tire, a blown engine, or something reach up and grab someone here today. .129.8 match up to a 128.1 for Alan Malcolm. He's down to now 6.7 seconds. Man, 3 seconds now for Finley. He's just a little short here on catching Malcolm. Malcolm's been 1 step ahead each angle of this race so far. Alex Crowther looking for his 5th win here today. And it's been, every race win he's had is just one of those Martin Truex wins where it's like, you didn't want to see it. You know, he just dominantly ran out front, stealing the win, sometimes just in a very boring fashion. I don't know how Alex Crowther had the strategy here today, but it seems like the boring factor kicks in here, and it's like, I don't know why the 84 had the winning strategy. Didn't seem like he was on a winning strategy all day. Here he is, white flag in the air. He's got 1 more lap to close it out here. He's got a 5-second gap on the 19 of Malcolm, 8-second gap on the 68 there of Finley Herwig. 1 final lap to go. 1 minute around the track left to turn. Everyone in the last stint here probably just hoping for an Alex Crowther fuel tank issue. 84 out front, I think just going to cruise to victory here today. Short of some kind of mechanical failure. Man, Alan Malcolm's right there. He's caught him, but I don't think Crowther's going to lose enough time here as he's coming around to the front stretch. And he's got enough fuel in the tank. It's going to be Crowther with race win number 5. Malcolm coming home second. Finley Herwig put in a spirited battle, and it's all for naught as he won't be in the championship bracket. Carson Bowers, Krista Cower, Matthew Hubert, Luis Rodriguez, Gannon Bird, Jimmy Logano, and Jack Davis, your top 10. Well, folks, this sets the stage for a Bridge to Cup title. And one of these drivers is going to come out with a guaranteed seat in the Cup Series for 2026. Chartered ride. You definitely don't want to give up a chartered opportunity in the Cup Series. That means you get to start every race. You will have a guaranteed ride for every week. And so that is a wrap for the regular season. As mentioned already, tied up the regular season championship was Carson Bowers. And with the final race in the books, we can actually start putting together the chart as to how the bracket is going to look. And so stay tuned, folks. We're going to have a double header for the USA Trucks West here in a little while. I'll get the stage set up, and we'll have 2 races from Washington State in the USA Trucks West Division. Don't want to miss the racing action, as it's going to be the first ever race from our home track, the Sigma's own Moses Lake Motorplex, built and staged for an all-star event here later in July. We get our first points paying race, and it'll be interesting. Great day of racing here from New York City. Glad to see the race went off without a hitch, and I'm excited for the rest of the races that we have to host here coming up throughout the next week. So well, thanks again, folks, for tuning in to this broadcast of the Sigma Bridge to Cup Series. Hopefully all enjoyed it. It was great racing action through and through, and we'll be looking forward to the next ones from the streets of New York. Let me get things set up here. I'll set up another stream within the hour, and we'll be back in racing with the USA Trucks West Division. So don't go anywhere, folks. Stay tuned for some more racing action today. I'll see you in the next one. This is Jakester, signing out.